right, I've had a lot of questions about this. We obviously have some more unsettled weather on the way after a very quiet April. So I want to talk kind of in depth about not just the weekend, but next week's severe weather threat or potential on Monday. So let's get right into it here. This is the outlook for Friday, and this is not a very threatening event by any means. What we'll likely see is a decaying MCS, a weakening line of thunderstorms that moves out of the Tennessee Valley and into northwest Alabama. It's going to be late. We'll be moving away from the best ingredients, the best lift. There will be no upper air support with this, so it'll be a cascading line of thunderstorms and really not anything to be too concerned about. So, on to the next potential threat, and that's going to be as we look at the forecast next week. So a lot of people ask me about this. A couple things to keep in mind. We're still several days out, so we don't know the exact nature of it. What we do know is that there's going to be a pretty potent system to the west. Can it sustain that as it moves east? That is what we are going to try to hone in on here in this forecast. So I want to start with Friday. This is a look at the potential rain timing coming through here across the state of Alabama. This is just a rough estimate based off of what I've looked at, but really moving across the state in a broad window. And the best thunderstorm threat is going to be initially in northwest Alabama, and then that'll be decreasing as you move to the south and to the east as storms die out gradually overnight. Totals on the lower end will be southeast Alabama, perhaps less than a half inch, and as much as over 1 inch up near Florence, the Shoals area of northwest Alabama. Here's how that could look on our future view product here. Remember, this isn't the answer key. But at 9 o'clock, it's got a line of thunderstorms stretching from Tuscaloosa to Scottsboro. Now watch what happens when I push this forward. You can kind of just see it falling apart there. And that's really what I expect. But by 1 o'clock, it's moved down to that I-65 corridor from Montgomery to Monroeville. And then it continues to sweep south and east by early Saturday morning. And just something to take note of here. And when we have rain that's all encompassing, or at least this much encompassing of the state, it's really hard to rebound to get rain in the afternoon. So while spotty showers are possible on Saturday, even a few thunderstorms in the southern half of the state, rain coverage should be lesser so for North Alabama because the atmosphere is worked over and we won't necessarily be along any sort of boundary to refire rain and storms. So with that in mind, Talladega race weekend is looking a little bit better here. I still think the biggest issue is going to be Saturday morning, but outside of spotty showers, rumble of thunder, I think Saturday's looking much better than it did initially. Sunday still looks to be the dry day of the weekend, with temperatures conditional on the cloud cover, but upper 70s to lower 80s. All right, we'll segue now into the upper air look as we head into next week. And really what we're going to be looking at is this trough you're going to see sweeping through the middle of the country. So we'll have several days of very unsettled weather. And what you look for if you're looking at an upper air map is this right here. Where do you see? So there's a little bit of a trough axis right there, the little short wave out ahead. This is where you're going to have your most potent storms just ahead of that trough axis. So Monday morning that's going to be to the west, and it'll be shifting in a general easterly direction throughout the day on Monday. So let's go into Monday afternoon, and again, here's your trough axis here. And the storms will be developing out in front of it. So this at about 12:30, we're looking at the Arkansas, parts of the Delta, northern Louisiana, most likely in that threat area. Now we move ahead to the evening. Okay, so this is at 7 o'clock. Notice the trough is now kind of flattening out. It's also moving north. Okay, so your trough axis is now up here. We still have broad troughing here, so your storms are going to be out in front. But it's starting to already lose upper air support by this point. Okay, keep in mind it's also going into the overnight, so we will lose not only the upper air support, which by this point, look at that. I mean, we're here's the the low and the trough axis. It's going to be several hundred miles to the north of us here, so we won't necessarily have that best upper air support. And I think that's going to bode well for us and be beneficial to limiting severe weather should this particular solution come to fruition. So we'll show you that now on a future view product. And this is starting at 1 o'clock on Monday. as storms begin to fire across the middle of the country. And by 4 o'clock, I mean, you're looking at a pretty good area here of storms that could be fairly significant because you're going to have an overlap of a couple things. You're going to have instability kind of maximized in here. You're going to have the front. Our low is still relatively, it's not too far away. There might even be a secondary low that develops here, but by and large, this is going to be where we see the best potential for strong thunderstorms, I believe, on Monday afternoon. So let's go into the evening. By 7 o'clock, what do we have now? Again, very robust area of thunderstorms right in here, and those are likely going to be severe, at least to this point, if not even just intense thunderstorms, but I think they'll have severe characteristics with them. Moving, excuse me, into the overnight here, we'll be looking at this line gradually weakening. Couple reasons for that. By this point, our surface low is beginning to move further north. Remember, the upper level support is also beginning to move further to the north. So while these can still be fairly robust in here, by this point, the overall slow-moving nature is probably going to work against this system. This is by about 5 o'clock on Tuesday morning, and again, we'll likely see the timing of this shift. But you've got your broken line of showers and storms stretching from the Ohio Valley back into the Mississippi Valley and moving through Alabama. I don't know, with it being overnight and the best dynamics moving away, because remember that trough and that surface low that's beneath it, as that moves further away, you lose that wind shear, that wind energy with it. So pretty good distance from that surface low at this point, and this cold front actually kind of runs out of steam here as it approaches on Tuesday morning. So for the time being, you can't denounce a severe threat, certainly can't. But everything I've looked at points to west of here being the much more likely target for some severe weather. Remember, I paused this at 4 o'clock. Look at this. Not only do you have that front that's going to be in place and better upper air support, but our instability value is very high across the Delta, across Arkansas, the Ozarks, and West Tennessee. And watch as we push this forward here. I mean, just absolutely collapses. And by 10:30, we're looking at a relatively stable atmosphere across Alabama, if not really no instability. Now, this would be okay if we had upper air support, but given the fact that we'll be losing that gradually as well, I think we'll be dealing with a weakening line of storms. Again, not to say that that can't change. So that's kind of my assessment of that. Rain between these two events I just talked about will be pretty good for the northern third of Alabama. Inch and a half plus, 2 inches or greater up near the Tennessee River. And the further south you go, as these frontal systems kind of lose their punch, we will see lower rain totals there. So, in short, is there a severe threat next week? Yeah, but do we know enough now to? No, and even what I just said, kind of denouncing it to some extent, doesn't mean that that's the right solution either. But there are several factors that are pointing me in the opposite direction against the severe threat at this point. Timing, the location of that upper level trough, a little shortwave, and then just the overall distance we will be from that surface low. So all of that put together, yes, we could have strong thunderstorms on Monday night into Tuesday morning. Am I leaning more towards a more benign system? I am, for us. Not to say that it won't be significant west of here, but we'll keep a close eye on it as always. Thanks for stopping by. You got any questions, drop them beneath. That's your forecast discussion halfway through the week. See you next time.